It is Michelle Badusky here. It has been a week since I got home from the hospital from my permanent colostomy surgery, which is called an APR, the Barbie butt surgery that I had almost 2 weeks ago in Winnipeg. And they call it a Barbie butt because it's all closed up. And I know that sounds super weird, and it's even weirder to live with it, but that's what it is. Now, I just wanted to come online and talk about something that I feel like I have a confession to make. So I've been posting a lot about what I've been going through with the surgery, with adapting to life with a permanent colostomy, and sharing my battle against stage 3 rectal cancer for the last few months. And a lot of people have been commenting, contacting me, and sharing that they thought I was being very courageous and very positive about all of this. And I want to thank everybody for reaching out to me because, you know what, I decided to share my story because I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to maybe help someone get screened or understand what's going on. That's why I decided to kind of share all this really personal stuff. But I haven't always been so courageous or so positive about this, and it was far too much to type or to expect you to read. So I wanted to break down a timeline for you. I got a colonoscopy on August 1st, 2024, after having a whole lot of digestive symptoms for about 6 to 9 months. And they were like, heavy constipation where I always felt like I needed to go to the bathroom, but I could never really relieve my bowels. Anyone who's carried a baby full term, you get like that bowling ball feeling between your legs when it's just about time for them to pop out. That's kind of how I felt, but in my bowels for months. And when I did go, my stools were, weird, like really thready, a lot of mucus and blood. And we thought that because I'm perimenopausal, we thought that maybe my symptoms were due to hormonal changes. We thought a lot of things. And I changed my diet, I exercised more, I did all the things that you're supposed to do, and it didn't work. It actually got worse. The more fiber, the healthier I ate, the worse it got. And now we know it's because I had a 5 centimeter tumor right at my butt. But we didn't know that then. And when I went for the colonoscopy, the doctor was fabulous. Dr. Alhadi and Brandon, he came in immediately after my colonoscopy and talked to my husband and I, and he told us that he found a large tumor. That he showed us on, a picture where it was located. It was less than a centimeter from my anus. And he told us straight out, he says, I don't know if this is cancer. Based on my experience, I think it is, but we have to send it to biopsy. But then he said something that changed my life forever. And he said, regardless of whether it's cancer or not, it's going to have to be surgically removed. And because it's so close to your anus, I can't do the surgery here. This is a really delicate surgery. You may not be left with enough tissue to reconnect everything. And you will probably end up with a colostomy. It may be permanent, it may be temporary, but I need you to understand that this is serious. So from day one, I found out I probably had cancer and that I would end up with a colostomy. And that was in August. And it was a lot to take in. And now today, living, 2 weeks out with a new colostomy, I get that, it sounds like I've just embraced it and went, okay, this is what it is. But that's not the way it started. I was terrified. I think I was more terrified of the idea that I was going to have to have a colostomy and live with a colostomy bag than I did about cancer. It was devastating. It was literally the worst news I've ever heard in my life. And I had never been so scared. I felt like my life was almost over right then. It's like I'm only 50 years old. Actually, I wasn't even 50 at the time. I was 49. I have this whole life, and now I'm going to have this bag, and I'm going to be carrying a bag of poop around with me, and it's going to be disgusting, and I'm going to smell, and people are going to not want to be around me. My husband's going to leave me. He's never going to see me as sexy or attractive again. I had all these things in my mind. I was terrified that I'd be left alone to deal with it all on my own, that I had no help. I don't have a strong family of origin. I don't have contact with my family of origin, and it's just me, my husband, and my kids. I had all of these things going through my mind, and all my childhood fears of abandonment and everything came to a head. And I spent months. I didn't even want to talk about it. I mean, if someone asked me, I'd say, oh yeah, I'm probably going to have the surgery, but I never really processed it because every time I thought about it, I would have a panic attack. I would feel like I was being overwhelmed. And when we got to the point after diagnosis and found out that yes, it was stage 3, and I went to meet with the surgeon in Winnipeg who ended up doing my surgery, Dr. Helawa, who saved my life. He's amazing. He was very, very direct after examining me, and he said that he was going to recommend chemo and radiation therapy to shrink the tumor so that maybe it'll shrink enough to give him enough tissue to work with that he can cut the tumor out and reconnect things. But he was so blunt. He said, but the reality is that because of where it's located, even if I reconnect it, you may not have enough muscle there to regain control, and you may end up incontinent. You may lose sphincter control. And maybe a permanent colostomy will end up being the best bet for you. And again, very direct. This is what I had to expect. And this was before, this was in October. And again, absolutely devastated. So I set my mind to this feeling of I'm going to do all the things my doctors told me. I am going to do all the chemotherapy. I'm going to do all the radiation. And it's going to shrink the tumor and it's going to disappear. And I'm not going to have surgery. That was my goal. And because I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to face the fact that this cancer was going to take away my butt. It was going to take away my rectum and my anus, and I didn't want to face it. So that was not courageous. That was not positive. I was trying to avoid it at all costs. And that's what I went into chemo and radiation. I was so excited. Seriously, I was excited for chemo and radiation because this was my chance to get rid of the tumor, and it was going to save me from surgery. At that point, I wasn't even thinking it was going to save my life. It was going to save me from surgery. And I spoke to my chemo oncologist, who again, Dr. Anderson, was fabulous. And I said, anything that we can do to avoid the surgery, give me all the chemo. Like, bring me to the edge of death with chemo. I need to avoid the surgery. And he spoke to Dr. Helawa, and together they basically, Dr. Helawa called me and said, you know what, I'm trying to save your life here. That I have a lot of patients, I have a lot of people that live really full lives with colostomies, and you need to reach out and you need to talk to them. And, this isn't guaranteed, but you need to really come to terms with the fact that this is probably going to happen. And when I finished chemo and radiation, I still had it in the back of my mind that no, it's going to work. I'm not going to have this surgery. And in January 2025, 2 months ago, I went in for, again, more MRIs, more CT scans, and Dr. Helawa examined me, and he said, the tumor shrunk almost half, and but that's not enough. We have to have surgery. And there's a 70% chance, he says, guaranteed you're going to wake up from surgery with an ostomy. Might be temporary, but there's a 70% chance it's going to be permanent because it's still so large and still so close. I don't think I can get to it. I don't think I can take it out and reconnect you with enough tissue and enough muscle so that you can regain proper sphincter and rectal control. And that was at the end of January. So 6 weeks before my surgery. And he told me, I've already booked you in for surgery. And he did tell me, he says, now there is another option. You can do more chemo. We can do 6 months of chemo and see if we can shrink it the rest of the way. If it's 100% gone, a complete clinical response after chemo, we can wait and watch. So the watch and wait protocol, which means testing every 6 weeks to see if it starts coming back. But it has to be 100% gone. If we don't get it all, we have to do surgery anyways because it will spread and it will be angry. And he says, that's not what I'm recommending. I'm recommending the surgery. And I asked him, I said, what would you do? And he said, I'd do the surgery as soon as possible. So I got that and I had this option, and I signed the consent forms for surgery while I was there. But when I came home, I was like, there's got to be, this can't be. He's a surgeon. Of course he's going to recommend surgery, right? So I called my chemo oncologist and I said, You've got all the test results. You've talked to the the surgeon. What do you recommend? And he said, surgery. He says, if you had a better response for the first round of chemo and radiation, maybe I would recommend chemo. Maybe we could get rid of it all. But 40% was not the best response. He says, and the side effects for more intense long-term chemotherapy, if you go through all of that and you still need to have the surgery, the neuropathy you have in your fingers, you might not actually be able to, change your own bag and things like that. You might make things worse for yourself. And I asked him, I said, if this was you, what would you do? And he said, I'd do surgery. No question. So you expect a surgeon to recommend surgery. You expect a chemo oncologist to recommend chemo, but he didn't. And it was the best thing he could have ever done for me because I didn't have a choice. I left that conversation going, I have to have surgery. And this was at the end of January, 6 weeks before surgery. And it was devastating. I was terrified. And it was the first time in my entire diagnosis I really started talking to people, reading up on what life with a colostomy would be like, what I could expect, looking at the different things. And I was still terrified. I really did. I thought, this was going to be the end of my life because I wasn't thinking about it as life and death. I was thinking about it from a vain body image, embarrassment, oh my God, I've got to live with this. Maybe I'm never going to leave my house again. I'm so embarrassed. All of these things. And then when I came to the fact that I had no choice, if I didn't have this surgery, I'd probably be dead within a couple years because the cancer will spread and it will be angry and it will metastasize probably to my liver. And it was like, okay, I have to have surgery. That's it. There's no choice. And that's where my mind shifted. And it's only been the last maybe 6 weeks where I went, all right, this is it. This is my new reality. I have to have this. What is it going to mean for me? And leading up to my surgery, when you read my posts or see my videos, that's where the mindset came from. I didn't, jump into this diagnosis going, oh my God, I'm going to have a colostomy. Yay! I hated every minute of it. I was so embarrassed. I was so scared. I was angry that this is happening to me. It was tough. And, my husband, my kids got me through it. I spent a lot of time journaling and getting all those negative emotions out. In the last 6 weeks, I just said, well, you know what? If this is going to happen, and it's going to happen, I have to find a way to make the best of it because I have a choice here. I can go into this surgery with this negative mindset and spend the next 40 years of my life being miserable and hating this bag and hating everything about this diagnosis, which is going to make me miserable to be around. So that, my husband and my friends and my family wouldn't want to be around me. Or I could say, you know what? Let's find a way to make the best of it. Let's just do it. And that shift in mindset was not easy. So for all the people that comment and share on my page about how brave and positive you think I am, I need you to know that it didn't come naturally. I had to work at it. I had to work really, really hard at it. And I've got a lot of journal entries that are just angry and sad and scared. But by getting those feelings out and by talking about it and sharing it, it helped me realize that this is just one step to a life, not just, survival, but living. I've spent a year so sick with the symptoms of my cancer. And I was so caught up in the idea, I don't know, the selfishness, the body image. I was the silly things, and I'm calling them silly now. And if you're going through this, I'm not trying to demean what you were going through. But compared with the fact that without this surgery, without Oscar, without this bag, I'd be dead, that's how I had to look at it. Is that being upset, that I could never wear a bikini again, which by the way I could. And I didn't wear bikinis before my surgery, so I was upset about something that wasn't even an issue. But that's where your mind goes. What if I lost 30 pounds and I wanted to strut my stuff in a bikini? Now I have a bag. I can't do that. And it's like the reality is I was never going to do it in the first place. But when you're upset and you are in denial, that's where your mind goes. And instead today I'm like, holy crap, I'm eating a salad. Um, I get to live. I get to live. That's where my positivity comes from. And I don't think it's courageous when you don't have a choice. So if any of you are going through, anything similar and you're reading my page or you're reading my posts going, damn, I wish I could be as positive and happy about this as Michelle is, you need to understand that I'm not happy about it. I am positive about it because I don't have a choice. I guess I do have a choice. I could be miserable and angry and make everybody else's lives miserable and angry and make this the worst experience of my life, or I can consider it a blip and a new reality and embrace it because I don't have a choice. If I want to live, I have Oscar in his pouch. And here I am. I don't want you to minimize what you're going through because I have been there. There was moments where I felt like I didn't want any of this, like screw it. I don't want chemo, I don't want radiation, I don't want surgery. I'm just gonna like live whatever years I have. And then I was like, well, that's just slow suicide, man. Watching all the scam things about cancer, it's like, well, maybe I'll skip it all and just drink a lot of apple cider vinegar and I'll be fine. That's just slow suicide. This surgery, Oscar in the pouch, has given me my life back. And is it weird? Yeah, it's so surreal. So surreal to think that my butt is sewn shut, that the doctors went into me and removed, organs. They took my rectum, they took my anus, they took my sigmoid colon, that I've got like this stoma poking out of my belly as a new butt, and I've got like, it's so weird, it's so surreal. But it's my new reality. And we all have a choice. We can fight to make our lives better and do whatever it takes. And I did. And I still needed surgery. So then, accept it. And I think that's what it comes down to. And, I'm not a religious person. I'm more spiritual. I consider myself agnostic. And I really do try to live my life by the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, like the fact that I needed this surgery. To change the things I can, my attitude about it, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that's what it really comes down to. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I felt like I needed to make this confession to, as much as I would love everyone to think that I'm just this superhuman, yay, go Michelle, all positivity, rainbows and unicorn glitter, and no. This has been a 6-7 month struggle from the day I found out I would need this surgery. There was a lot that I had to go through from there to here, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come. My battle isn't over. But whatever comes my way, if I need more chemo, if I need more help, if Oscar explodes his pouch when I'm in the middle of Safeway, I'm going to have to deal with that. But how I deal with it is up to me. How I deal with it is up to me. And I think that's the important lesson that I've learned through this battle and my journey so far. It's what we do about it. I didn't cause my cancer. I didn't cause any of this. And I can be angry about it, and I can be miserable, and I can let this disease steal the precious moments I have. Or I can say, you know what? I'm going to try to make the best of it. And that's why I've been sharing my story, because so many of you have contacted me saying that you're embarrassed to talk about symptoms. Nobody wants to talk about poop. You're embarrassed to talk to your doctor. You don't want to get a colonoscopy because who the hell wants to get a camera shoved up their butt? All of these things. But I'm here to tell you, there is nothing worse. Or I shouldn't say there's lots of things that are worse. But you know what's worse than getting a colonoscopy or telling your doctor you're constipated? Having 5 doctors stand over you looking at your butt wounds because they just sewed it shut because you had undetected rectal cancer. So please, get screened, talk to your doctor, talk to your friends, talk to your family, and realize that whether you are dealing with cancer or irritable bowel disease or Crohn's or colitis, whatever your issue, what happens to you is not your fault. But you can control whether you make it better or worse with your attitude. And it took me a long time. I wish I could go back to the fall and slap myself silly and say, you know what, smarten up, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But I can't do that. I can't tell myself that and get those months back where I was so furious and angry and sad. But I can share it so that maybe you won't waste any time and you can get, from there to where I am today a little bit faster than I did by learning through my journey. So thank you all for your support. You have helped me get through this, and it's an ongoing journey. I'm going to continue to share. Maybe even one day I'll be, a little bit brave and I'll actually show you what Oscar really looks like. But for right now, I just want to thank you for your support, and with a lot of humility, I want to say that I don't know if I could get through this without it, without you listening to me and letting me vent and share. I just don't want everyone to think that I'm this superhuman, positive, happy person that just embraced this, because this journey has been awful and scary, and even now it continues to be. But I know I can get through it. I absolutely know I can get through it, and whatever bumps come along, I'm just going to deal with it. So thank you. Thank you very much, and please get tested. Have a great, great Sunday.